Okay guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're gonna go hard. We're gonna go hard and show you guys some very incredible stuff. This is literally mind-bending and it's going to change your perception of what really happened in the past. We have some very interesting paintings here which show literally the giants of before and the comparison to the size of the giants and normal human beings. There's actually a couple of these paintings, and you can clearly see that these are the normal size humans, these are the normal animals. And then we have these gigantic, like maybe like almost 2.5 or 3 meters, maybe like 3 meters, I'm not sure to be honest. But like these gigantic humans, which like even their leg is obviously always taller than the human's head pretty much, which is just crazy. So that means that this is like already like 1.56 meters. So yeah, we're looking at 3 meters, guys. And look at this, this is just astonishing. We see here giants, guys, giants everywhere in the past. That's right, the descendants of the Nephilim. They are very real, guys. They are super real, and this just showcases this in such a hard way. And look at the nobility. These are like noble people from the past. Like, look at their clothes they're wearing. They're wearing some like really fancy clothes and everything. And then you have surrounding them these gigantic humanoids. All right, this is why there's so many big archways which were made for people of the past. Let me show you this example. Look at this. All right, this archway here and then this one here. Do you see why the archways we have right now are so big? Very simple, because back in the day, human beings or many human beings were as high up to this point. And some of them were even maybe taller up to this point, so almost halfway through. Okay, here's an example. This is a person back in the day. Okay, their head is reaching this part of the here, which is the base of the column, which is just basically here. And this is a normal human being, as you can see here. Obviously much smaller, like incredibly smaller, right? This is what has happened in the past. Look at this one here. We have just 3 girls who are receiving some sort of gift from a woman. Look at her hand. I mean, her hand is just gigantic, like it's bigger than this girl's face. That is crazy. I mean, obviously the height of her, you can tell that she's already maybe potentially what, like 4 meters high, something like that, which is just crazy, right? Now, let's move on to another topic, which is, of course, the topic of the melted buildings and the melted cities. This is something that's quite incredible because many people don't know this, but throughout history there's a bunch of buildings and a bunch of mountains and a bunch of places which are literally completely melted. This one is a melted pyramid which was completely destroyed with some sort of laser technology, most likely. Look at this one here. I mean, we can compare and we can showcase many of them together, and you can see the fact that this is the side effect of super high heat. Remember that in the ancient Indian Vedas, they do talk about thermic bombs, which are super powerful and they can literally melt the environment. Look at this one here as well. I mean, this one is even more obvious. And then I think I have another one here. Look at this, right? So we have a couple of them here to showcase. Do you see how they used some crazy technology back in the day, and they literally melted the rocks of cities and they left this like gooey stuff at the bottom? All right, it's just crazy, right? I mean, just goes to show that our past hides so much more. It hides so many things that we are just completely unaware of. I mean, look at this one. I mean, this is just one example of how the official narrative just lies to your face and the bastards have no shame. History says that effectively when these staircases were built about 1,000 years ago, more or less, the architect made a mathematical error. This is basically what they're telling you, the tour guides, okay? They made a mathematical error, and because of that, the staircases are much bigger than they should have been, and then they just could not turn back, okay? And they just kind of decided to just complete it and just forget about it, okay? Now, who on earth starts a project, and then when you do the first step, all right, and you already notice that, oh, by the way, this is going to be too big, guys, like this is not going to be handy for humans, right? It doesn't make any sense. No architect makes this most stupid mathematical mistake of making the staircases so gigantic. Doesn't make any sense. Now, what does make tons of sense is that if we would have certain human beings, for example, 36 inches, oh sorry, my bad, 36 feet, 25 feet, 23 feet. These humanoids, these giants, okay, which are, for example, we see them mentioned in the Bible, which are like this sort of height. They would then obviously effectively in the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch mentions these giants, okay? Now these 23 feet or 25 or obviously 30 feet, these could easily traverse these staircases fairly easily. And you can tell, I mean, this was made for some giant humanoids, which were much bigger than the average human size, which is of course, this is the average human size, and these are the size of the giants, the ancient Nephilim, okay? And it just blows my mind, like how like official narrative can tell you such lies and kind of tell you that, well, yeah, I mean, the architect made a mistake and, you know, like they just had to go with it and just do it. Please, please, people, how the heck do people even accept that nonsense? I mean, if I was there physically and someone would tell me that, I would tell them in their face, stop talking bullshit. You don't know the answer and you're just making stuff up. That's pretty much it. That's what you're doing. You're just making stuff up because the official science does not know why was this made in the first place. Look at this one here. This one, I believe it's in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure. Again, stones which were put by giant people just for fun. This is literally, they were chilling, relaxing, and then they just made this effectively there. I mean, humans don't do this stuff. Humans don't even have the capacity to do this sort of thing in Africa. All right, it's just impossible. Another one here, I mean, this one I believe is in Siberia. We have a perfectly cut stone, as you can see here, and here we have some black lines which are the reminiscent of the side effect of a laser cut. Potentially using a high intensity laser to cut the stone, you get this particular residue on the stone. And as you can tell, it's pretty obvious that this is not a product of nature, especially more so. Who would cut this piece of stone and just abandon it in the middle of nowhere in a forest for like so long? It doesn't make any sense, right? Why would you cut it? Where is the other piece which was cut? Is it being transported? Where has it been taken? Why would you leave it there? I mean, there's so many questions with literally no answer because official narrative sees this and the first thing they do is just close the book and run away from it because it's just too controversial and they don't have the answer to it, and that's sad. I mean, this is one example as well. In Egypt, we have all of the hieroglyphs, which shows the ancient aircrafts, okay? We have different flying vehicles, different submarines, ships, helicopters. All these are in a temple in ancient Egypt, and by the way, that temple now, public access is actually forbidden because it shows stuff which of course goes against the official narrative, and that's why entrance to that place for the public is actually forbidden. The only way you can go there to this temple, you have to have a special private tour. It's very expensive and it's really hard to do it because it's literally very restricted by the by the Egyptian government. Now the reason why the Egyptian government restricts this is of course because they want to hide the falsehood that the Egyptians created the pyramids, which of course is complete lies. They were made by a different civilization altogether, which was much more advanced and much more powerful in the past. Did you know that there's also military camps in Antarctica which are literally on top of giant tree stumps? This is just one photo, one example. Giant frozen tree stumps in Antarctica. And of course this relates to the theory that we have the giant trees, the giant silicon trees, which you guys seen in some of my other videos, and these were just enormous, gigantic. Even like the tour, guys, like the tours you would do in Antarctica, they're very restricted. You cannot go wherever you want. This is the official tour, and as you can see here, you barely see anything of Antarctica. You actually can't even get close to the ice wall. It's just impossible. They forbid it because there is actually a law and regulation which has been changed multiple times. For example, in the Antarctic Act of 1994, with the Act of 2013, it is a criminal offense. Any person, for example, on a British expedition who enters or remains in Antarctica without either a permit issued under the relevant acts or written authority from another contracting party to the environmental protocol will be guilty of an offense. Why am I going, if I go to Antarctica and I just walk on ice, it's an offense, alright? That's just bonkers, guys. If a person whose place of final departure for Antarctica was in the UK, alright, enters Antarctica without the necessary permit or authorization, the operator of the vessel or aircraft on which he enters Antarctica, interesting, says he, what about woman? Oh, anyway. And the master of that vessel or the commander of the aircraft will each be guilty of an offense. The maximum penalty for those found guilty of offense under the Act is 2 years of imprisonment and an unlimited fine. What does this mean? Basically, if you go to Antarctica by yourself, you are going to go bankrupt, literally, and you cannot pay for anything else. You can become a slave because it's a crime to even get close by. A question to end this video. The same countries bombing people agree to protect Antarctica. The question is, why? Why are they protecting a sheet of ice? Doesn't make any sense, guys. Unless this place is the gateway to some very, very controversial stuff which they don't want people to discover because it's highly sensitive stuff, guys. And I believe personally, this is what's actually happening here. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's video. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell because it does support the channel massively. And as always, I'll see you in the next uploads.